Once you've installed the RSS reader on your computer and opened it, you'll probably notice that in the sidebar there are a number of default feeds. To simplify the process of illustrating how to add feeds to the feed reader, I've deleted these default subscriptions. And I'd like to begin by adding feeds from the New York Times. Safari, which is the default web browser for Mac OS, is itself a feed reader. So there is this quirk that in order to use a different feed reader, which has more features such as NetNewsWire, one has to go to Safari's preferences, click on the RSS pane, and in the default RSS reader specify NetNewsWire, as I've already done. Once you've done that, you can close your preferences and then scroll down to the bottom of the New York Times webpage. And there you'll see the universal symbol for RSS feeds. Clicking on that brings up a second page where you can choose from a number of RSS feeds, including media and advertising, world business, education, world news, US news, science, and so on and so forth. I'm going to begin by adding US news to my feed reader. When I click on this icon here, NetNewsWire will activate and prompt me to subscribe to the feed. And I will go ahead and OK the subscription. And I'll do this a couple of more times with America's News and Book Review and Technology. I'm going to repeat this process and fast forward for a number of the sites, the first of which is CNN.com. Now that I've loaded a few feeds in my feed reader, I'd like to show you some of the features of the NetNewsWire client. And I'd like to begin by going to NetNewsWire's Preferences, and under the General pane, under the Archiving tab, I'm going to change the preferences for Keep News Items, which is set to disappear from the feed once the website which issues the feed expires them, and change it so that instead of for at least 7 days, which is the default for NetNewsWire, to 14 days. Next, under the Browsing pane, I'm going to change the behavior of NetNewsWire's opening links to not open in NetNewsWire itself, but in fact my default web browser, which is Safari. Additionally, I'd like to open links in the background. This has the advantage of keeping NetNewsWire in the foreground while I look through other articles that have been loaded in my feed reader. And this advantage will become plain further in the screencast. The last thing I'd like to change is under the Downloading pane, and under the feeds, I'd like to change the frequency with which my feeds are refreshed. So rather than choosing every 4 hours, and I'd like to choose instead to refresh every hour. It will always refresh once I open NetNewsWire. So now that I'm done with the preferences, there's one more thing I'd like to change. And that has to do with the summary pane in the NetNewsWire client. So I'll go to View, and under Layout, I'll select to show the summaries in line. This has the effect of providing a little bit more information in the summary pane of NetNewsWire.